Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to IDAGIO Live on Thursday. So it must be visiting with Thomas Hampson, and that is me. It's great to see you all. IDAGIO Live, as you well know, is the place where classical music happens. And as I've said before, on the Thursday evenings, it's quite fun because I often get invited to meet with people I might not have just bumped into, or I don't even know. And certainly tonight is really probably both of those possibilities. A wonderful musician and colleague who I'm very anxious to get to know, just like you are, who plays an instrument that I think we all probably recognize from a film or something, but have no idea how one does this, and her colleagues and so forth. This is going to be truly an adventure this evening, and I'm very much looking forward to it. And let me welcome you, Woman. Now, I just learned something. Her name is actually Man, but her family name is Wu. So I'm Thomas Hampson. She's actually Man Wu. But since we're in China this evening, she is Woman. Did I get that right?
Yes. Thank you, Thomas.
Perfect. Perfect. And let me just give a little introduction to everyone. In fact, Woman is having a global concert hall debut concert. It's called An Evening with Woman, which sounds fantastic. The Journey of Chinese Pipa, Ancient Ties for Modern Sound, which was filmed at GBH Studios in Boston. It will air the 12th of June, which is in 2 days, at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific Time, and if I may add, 10 o'clock Central European Time. And will be online through 12 September. That's very generous of you, Woman. That's fantastic. So if you can't be there for the actual downbeat, we will have it online for you to watch. But it's always fun to watch things live, even on the net, I think. Woman, if you would be so, if you'd be so kind, I would love to know your journey. I've asked many guests before to give from themselves their own sort of Wikipedia. I've done an awful lot of reading up on your life and your instrument and the music, and it's very exciting. But it would be fun if you told us this. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do a little bit of screen sharing later, and I'll show you some of the resources that are available for you to get to know this extraordinary musician a little bit. But please tell us your journey. Where were you born? When did you come to play an instrument? If you can bring us somehow into your personal journey, if you would.
Oh, thank you, Thomas. Well, first of all, I would really, I'm so excited and to talk to you because I sent it to this talking kind of, the picture of you and me. I sent it to all my friends in China. Just a few minutes ago, they all kind of writing back to me, and also a lot of singers.
No.
Yes, a lot of opera singers as well. So
that's fantastic.
And so I'm very excited and also very strange because in some way excitingly and unexpected, because I'm a Chinese traditional instrument, play the pipa. And as you mentioned, a lot of people may not see lively or heard something, but I'm talking to a Western opera singer master. That's just amazing.
Well, welcome to the digital universe.
Yes.
Unbelievable. By the way, where are you right now?
I'm in California, Southern California, San Diego. So we have beautiful sunshine day today.
It's a gorgeous place.
It is. Yeah, I'm very happy sitting here behind the Chinese sort of design of the screen. Have some traditional sense. To answer your question, of course, I was born in China, and the city is beautiful city. It's called Hangzhou, which we have West Lake, we have bamboo. We have green tea produced from my hometown. Hangzhou is very close to Shanghai, about an hour south. So okay. It's on the coast, and yes.
Shanghai is one of the few cities I've actually been to once or twice. You would think you'd remember that. I think once. I mean, fantastic, beautiful area. Beautiful.
Yes.
Area.
Yeah.
Anyway, excuse me.
It's okay. And I started my learning the traditional instrument is called pipa when I was 9 years old. And so 13 years old, I went to Beijing and I attended to a music school, which is called conservatory.
Okay.
So I was there studying, or being through my middle school, high school, and college. So I got a musical education in Beijing, this conservatory. And
can I interrupt? Is this
yes.
a musical education that we do recognize, or was this a musical education grounded in the ancient tradition in Pipa? I mean, were you learning Western harmonies and language as well as Chinese or Eastern language?
We learn both. We have to learn both. So very much like if in the States here, we probably see like a Juilliard or Curtis, or very, very similar. But we have traditional music department, we have a string department, we have opera singer department. So for composition, but it's all very similar, the system. But we have to learn a lot of things, including history, music history. Of course, my major is the performs, this ancient Chinese instrument. But on the side, I have to learn a lot of other things. So I studied in there for over 10, I don't know, for decades. And and I graduated, and I moved to States 30 years ago, 1990.
How's that? You don't look. Never mind. We're not going to get into your age. But anyway, well, so you came to, and did you come straight to New York or to California or what?
No, I actually straight to Connecticut. The
Connecticut.
reason, I tried to study some kind of language because I didn't speak English. So in the East Coast, and then moved to Boston for a while, and then 15 years ago, come to California.
To California.
Yeah.
Because of the sunshine.
Yeah. and also because of the ocean.
It's true. It's true. I mean, I lived a couple of years in the Los Angeles area, and I've been to San Diego often, and that whole coast. And I've spent more time north of Los Angeles in the area of Santa Barbara, which is kind of God's country. It's quite beautiful up there. I'm a golfer.
Oh,
and
that helps.
The golf courses are pretty nice in California. Anyway, but okay. So, did you play any other instrument other than, or does Pipa, one have to?
Pipa is my main instrument, and I started with a very little one, another version of the instrument we call liu qin, another traditional instrument, very much like a mandolin. And then in the music school, we have to learn a little bit of piano. As all music student, we have to learn that. So it's a very interesting, if we talk about more like music, the traditional music notation is different than Western notation. So because we learn piano, so we have to read Western notation as well. So that's I read both. I play contemporary and traditional.
This is a wonderful conversation. It's a world fascinates me. I've heard your instrument played as a solo before, but I mean I know nothing about it. This is I'm sure quite interesting to a lot of people. And I'm jumping ahead a little bit just in my mind, because what kind of notation did John Harbison write for the concerto that he wrote for you?
Western notation.
But does he know original notation, as it were, original for Pipa, ancient?
Well, right now, ancient notation, not many people read that. So for contemporary composer, all write in with the Western notation, so I read that. But if I play the traditional music, which is Saturday you will hear, basically I will play. Take a listener to the journey of the instrument. So there are a lot of traditional pieces. And that's the different notation will be traditional notation.
Right. Now, does music run in your family, if I may ask?
My family is not musical, but well, I would say my father is an artist. He's a painting. painter, so related with that.
Of course.
Yeah.
And they loved you playing music.
Oh yeah, they basically they made a decision, like give to me the instrument to say, this is the instrument you're going to play.
I have a lot of naive questions that I think our public would be interested too, because this is very exotic for us over here. I mean, this is incredible. And also the whole idea of a musician like you in your path in China and then coming over here. So at home, did you listen to recordings and CDs and radio? I mean, or what is that like?
You mean the learning process, right?
Well, not just the learning process, but I mean, but also at home. I mean, if your parent, your father's an artist, was it rather quiet in your home, or did you have music in the background? And what kind of music would that have been?
Well, I grew up in 70s, 70s, 80s, 60s, sort of that.
Steely Dan.
Yeah, but for us, at that time in China, we only have a radio. There's no TV, of course, no. So and we have the record, the bigger one.
Yeah, the LP.
Yeah. Background music in the household, mostly revolution song. That's my generation, and and some kind of a folk song, folk music. That's all. There is none Western music, zero Western music. Nothing. Wow. No symphony, no opera, no
Mozart, no Schubert.
No. I have no idea.
When did you hear your first Mozart?
When I was in music school.
Wow.
Later 70s.
What music, when you started hearing in school Western music, what moved you or surprised you or impressed you the most?
Well, I grew up with all traditional music. First time I heard Western music, as I mentioned, in a conservatory, but from a record. The first time I heard live was a Boston Symphony. Wow. Later 70s, I think maybe 1980s.
Was this Seiji Ozawa's time?
Yes. They visited China and they came to my school, gave a master class, and they played Beethoven's Symphony No. 5. And they played not in the concert hall, they played in the sports stadium.
Right.
Because so many people, the audience are packed. Not only from Beijing, from all the whole nation, all the musicians, music lover. That was very, very powerful. The sound quality may not not good because it's a stadium, right? But it was so, as a young musician, as a student in the music school, and first time you heard live, this piece we heard on the record. And maybe Berlin Symphony's record, but this time was the first time to hear that. And also the conductor is Asian, so even more interesting.
Of course, was Seiji quite well known in China? Of course.
After that, he's like a hero.
He was my hero growing up. I grew up in Washington State, and some of the first I came very late to really mainstream. Well, I don't know how to describe that. I came late to classical music on one level, certainly, very intense exploration of classical music. I grew up in a very musical family, and we my sister was a very good pianist. So the Grieg concertos and that kind of stuff. She was very, very. So I wasn't exposed to it, but actually sort of journeying into who is Schubert, who is Mozart, who is Beethoven, that came also rather late to me, and through records as well, LPs. I was actually also probably your age when I heard a live orchestra for the first time. It wasn't the Boston Symphony, but it was a very good symphony. I'll leave that. But But as you came into more contact with Western music, was there a composer that stood out to you?
I started in the conservatory, we have composition department. We have a lot of young Chinese composer, very talented at that time, or my schoolmates. So I started to work with them to play their work. And in traditional repertoire, for the Pipa repertoire, we have very limited. We're not, we probably only have 30 pieces. So imagine when I was young teenager and started playing the whole life, I only played 30 pieces. So that's kind of boring, right? So I started very interested, a very curiosity about what is contemporary music, what is about people writing music. So that's all I started with.
Did you play beautiful music that you liked of Mozart or Schubert or something on the Pipa?
We did. We actually played Mozart, like string quartet, some kind of piece together with all my friends. Bang, ba, bang, ba, 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 ba.
But what instruments? All Pipa?
All Pipa.
It reminds me of a conversation I had. It's like the balalaika, not like the balalaika, but I mean, I've heard. I actually love the sound of this instrument. I think it's an amazing sound. And when you hear, a balalaika, a group of balalaiki, I guess, 5 or 6 balalaika players playing, a melody that from another, it's extraordinary. But I've never heard your instrument. I've never heard original Chinese or ancient instruments, as you call it, play Western music. I've only ever heard it play its own music.
Well, that's because in the conservatory, we kind of try to learn, try to understand. And also, as you mentioned, the balalaika and the pipa, it's a string plucking family. It's a part of those string plucking instruments. We think it's like, Chinese, very ancient, but actually pipa, if we talk about the history, pipa came from Persian. Came from Central Asia, which is like 1,000 years ago, and introduced to China. So Pipa actually related with the Middle East oud. That instrument.
Yeah, the oud,
yeah, and then of course European lute, guitar, and a lot of string plucking like Indian sitar or dutar, a lot of tar instruments, and then in China we call pipa, and in Japan they call biwa. So it's banjo. It's all related.
I was just about to say, I believe that Rhiannon Gibbons has talked about the history of the banjo and references to certainly oud. It's very interesting. You mentioned earlier the mandolin. Since it's a plucked instrument, is there a relationship? Could you pick up another Western-like instrument and figure that out? Or you do? You do. Do you play the mandolin?
Probably will be easier for me if I start play than other beginner. The technique it's similar. I also kind of could have fooled around with a little bit with the banjo as well.
You see, I have to confess to you something. And this is to my public. I actually am a pretty big fan of country Western music, the legitimate old time stuff, and mandolins and bluegrass is an amazing world of sound and music, right? I mean, it's really, really, beautiful. Yeah. Have you heard this music? Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I played it with a banjo player. I played it with Appalachian music and
Appalachian, exactly.
Yes, and also some people, traditional repertoire, people think because upbeats, in a Saturday, if there will be in my program, and always audience say, "Wow, someone like a banjo piece." So it's a very interesting to think about the music travels and the instrument travels. Actually, a lot of things similar. The scale, pentatonic. Right. Yeah, so I would love to, play with a banjo player or mandolin player. It's we came from the same family.
I think what we want to do, I'm going to do, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to do a screen share here. I hope I set it up right. And we'll go and look at a couple of, Yes, I think we're going to splash on here. Now, we're not supposed to play much music, but I can't resist. That is a fantastic photo. This is the Global Concert Hall, ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about. I am now on the website of IDAGIO. You could easily have it as an app on your computer, an app on your telephone, your iPad, your Android, your whatever you want. There's all sorts. And it is connected to an enormous, as in the most enormous, deep database of classical music. And it follows you around, and it's extremely convenient. And you can make playlists, which I find incredibly fun to do, because they follow you. The minute we do a playlist, it goes on your telephone, and then you can listen to streaming or something else. It's really quite wonderful. We have over 20,000 classical composers in this database. I didn't even know there were 20,000 composers, but there you are. Anyway, so don't be, I'm telling you that in all honesty, because some of our viewers and people feel intimidated. Oh, I don't know much about classical music and so forth. IDAGIO is your best friend. It's the perfect place to go and explore, because you can just write anything in, and you can connect something else. And if you're listening, for instance, to the Beethoven 5, when you click on that first movement right down the side of the picture, you'll see all the other recordings of Beethoven 5 in the database. So you can really have a lot of fun to hear things. But of course, we have in classical music a little bit, I guess you can call the exotic, and that would be this. This is what we're going to hear. This will be on June 12th. I'm going to move over. I have to move my browser down a wee bit here, if I can do that. I've taken this over to Firefox. Now you know I use Firefox. All right, so here we are. Schumann and Associates. This is your press release from Connie Schumann, who's a wonderful press person. Give her my love. Woman, the world's finest player of the Pipa, says the New York Times. And I was going to ask you this. I was going to ask you about the Silk Road. Now, I love this, because this is stated in Western language as so matter of fact, and I have no idea what this means. It's joined by one of her Silk Road Ensemble bandmates. I think that's a fantastic word. And the person's name is Shakuhachi. No, it's a Shakuhachi virtuoso Kojiro Umezaki. And they have a new album called Flow, released in a circle records, which I know from some of the other avant-garde people we've had on. The album is currently available for pre-order, but I believe this is called Flow. I think I found Flow. Is this Flow? No, that's Dance of the Dragon.
Yeah.
This is Fragrant Rhythms. Oh, this is incredibly beautiful, people. This is, if you look up Woman and you go onto her website and this stuff, you'll have all these things that you can click on, like this, the Fragrant Seasons. This is unbelievably beautiful music. I love it. Let's see, what is this? Bits and pieces of Lou Harrison's and Concerto for Pipa and Strings. Should we just have a listen?
Sure.
Let's have a listen. Oh, I love it. Oh, I love it. I didn't get this far. Oh, I love it. We have to stop. If I keep it under a certain amount of seconds, then this algorithm hunter who thinks I'm being an evil person won't catch us and throw us out. So we just get a touch of it. Was this difficult to learn? Was it fun to learn? I imagine there's a movement that's rather more slow and passionate.
Yeah.
But whatever. Tell us about this piece.
Well, this piece,
Bits and Pieces.
Yeah, Bits and Pieces. This is by American composer Lou Harrison. He composed it for me.
Oh, my bad. Excuse me. I'm sorry to interrupt. I think earlier I said John Harbison, because I don't know why. Because I'm having a senior moment. Excuse me very much, Herr Professor. Lou Harrison's Concerto for Pipa and Strings. I beg your pardon. Please go ahead.
Yeah, he wrote in 1997.
Oh.
Yes, and so this version with the dance Amauli, and we basically created this piece during the pandemic last year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and with the nights, the string player, with the all my friends. This is only one movement. So as you hear the sound, as you mentioned, banjo or bluegrass music or country music, it's a really fit with this, mandolin, yes. Was kind of that style. So Lou Harrison wrote this piece. It doesn't sound like any Chinese music because he studied a lot of Indonesian gamelan music. So and also he lives in California, of course. So I always joke. People ask me like, what is Lou Harrison's music to you? I said, well, to me, it's a California music.
Well, I get that. Let's move. I'm going to back here. This is also another blurb from Schumann and Associates. Woman and the Knights, wonderful group, perform bits and pieces. Oh, I see. This was the cue. This was showing me this, and then I went over and we just heard that. Let's go back to, what is this? This is Bamboo Mastered V2. Yes, this was beautiful when I put this on. Let me hear it. You listen to it and tell us what we're listening to.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry to do that. I'm just wondering, you must come in here yourself.
Let me hear. Is that running?
No, it isn't. I don't know. Let's go back here. Maybe there's a picture. This is a different instrument, isn't it?
This is the shakuhachi.
Is this a shakuhachi?
Yes, the Japanese flute, bamboo flute.
Okay.
So this album is bamboo flute, Japanese bamboo flute with the Chinese pipa. Yeah.
And there you are.
Yeah.
Now you said earlier that you started on a smaller one. How many different sizes of this instrument, and are they always the same string?
Always the same.
Five strings?
4 strings.
4 strings.
4 strings, and the size always the same. There's no different size. This is the size. So so imagine when I was little, I play and on a hold. It's very difficult. And also you mentioned how is it difficult to learn the instrument. It's a very demanding instrument.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, all the fingers you have to running and keep the practice. Never enough.
since you've played, I get that. Since you've played other instruments like a mandolin or a banjo or a guitar or something like that, what are the tactile? What are the feeling differences of playing this? Is it sensitive because of the scales you're working in? Your sense of scale in Chinese ancient music is completely different than our Western. Yeah. Is that the difficulty, or is it actually of what are the strings made, and what do they feel like to make their sounds?
Well, first of all, the string in the ancient time made by silk. Okay. It was the silk strings, and the instrument. You see the picture. There are a lot of bamboo frets. And in the older version, they only few frets, or the top only have a 4 and the bottom only have a 5. So very limited. In 2000 years ago, only have 4 frets. So it's a very basically play single notes and with the voice coming singing. So very much like any older version European music as well in the older days. And now this is a very modern version with more frets, and could be possible to play a lot of contemporary music, a lot of notes. So the older time string made by silk, and we use a natural fingernail to play. So sound very soft, basically for very small setting, self-entertainment. It's not for bigger concert hall. And gradually we changed it. Now the string, to nylon, got the nylon, and now it's a steel strings. It's metal strings, so much louder. And
metal string. This
yes.
is metal. You're playing on metal strings.
Yes. Yeah, especially made for pipa. It's a pipa strings, and the right hand we use plastic fingernails, 5 fingernails on the yes.
So you have to take care of your hands very much, no?
Suppose all the instrumentalists have to take care of their hands.
Yes, but I mean, do you wear things to pluck, or you just take care of?
I wear things to pluck, and I wear those plastic fake fingernails put on, and when I play. And you mentioned how the difference than Western music. So for Chinese music, they're very much like Indian music. Left hand, when I play, like you're singing, if there's a vibrato, there a lot of ornamentation. When you play something like Mozart, you play bang, ba bang, ba 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 ba. So very clear, play on the piano, all the notes clear. But for Chinese music, there is no that straight. They always there's up down.
Exactly.
So a lot of vibrato, a lot of space, like Japanese shakuhachi you heard. It's similar, the idea of music, their timing, after notes, after the other notes, that between notes, we always have a lot of empty space there. That's a very traditional kind of philosophy to make
we're looking at Kojiro Umezaki. Right? And he's playing this extraordinary instrument, shakuhachi. Is it also always only this size, or are there other shakuhachi versions of it?
I think this is the very common size in shakuhachi. In Chinese, shakuhachi is their measurement. So that's the size of the instrument. Yeah.
I'm going to try and find, because I found another. These are all takes. Ladies and gentlemen, everything I'm doing and showing you, you can do yourself. You can have all of these wonderful sound bits and have a listen. Some of these things are not. This is what I wanted to ask you. This is Wuman. This is Wuman and Wu Wei, Dance of the Dragon. Let's just have a wee listen to this. And the reason I've queued it up is because when I first put it, I had all these advertisings. So I'm going to jump in here. We'll listen to a little bit this thing, and you can tell us about this and also the festival.
Okay.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. I have to stop. I've already gone over. I've exhausted. I think if I keep it under 2 minutes, they won't yell at me, but they'll probably yell at me anyway. So please tell us about this instrument that this gentleman is playing. Wu Wei is playing.
Wu Wei, yeah, we're very similar family name, Wu Wei, Wu Man. And his instrument is called Sheng, Sheng. That's a spelling. It's another ancient Chinese wind instrument. It's the pipe, we call mouth organ or pipe. It's all made by bamboo. And this is also very traditional instrument in China with the thousands years history. But right now, of course, you see the version, it's kind of modern already. So this piece we played is based on traditional tune, and we kind of improvised. We just kind of.
This is what I want to ask you. Is you are improvising, aren't you?
Yeah, we are improvising, and we decided to make
to the extent that you would try to surprise one another, or
yes. That's the basic tone, dun, 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 very Chinese. And then we say, oh, this tone is so simple. Let's try something fun. So we decided, okay, we're gonna be conversation, and we're kind of like teasing each other or battle each other. So that's the back to the traditional roots.
Is this kind of improvisation in music making part of the tradition?
Yes, very much like any other traditional in other country. African music, Central Asian music, Indian music. We're all based on improvise. So
do you write pieces yourself? Do you write music yourself?
Yes,
I write pieces.
Yes, I write pieces just for myself. I do for myself.
No. But I mean, have you created Wuman sonatas for Pipa?
Not yet. Maybe someday.
That would be fantastic. So tell me, what is the I hate for the word industry, but there must be just a handful of really, really good instrument makers, like the wind instruments notwithstanding. Is it difficult to find somebody or does one find their maker of a pipa that you just feel this is your piece? And how many pipas do you have?
There are quite a few good luthier, instrument maker in China, in the different cities. So it's really depending what you like the sound. It's like any other instrument. You may be like a German style, you may be like French. So it's the same thing. I like a Beijing maker. Someone like a Shanghai maker. So there's slightly material all the same, but somehow the craft, the sound is some darker, some brighter. So yeah.
What what is the process of making these? Is it wood that is sat for 10 years, or marinated, or bent and massaged, and all those sorts of things?
Yeah, the back piece is only one piece. That's the most treasure. That's the value of the instrument. And the front, it's a soft and two pieces put together. So the best back piece, normally we use a redwood or rosewood. Rosewood. It's not from America, redwood or rosewood. It's from Southeast Asia. And suppose, yes, we have to sit there for a couple of years and get older, and to use that material. So good quality is always the master, maker always say, oh, this piece has been sitting there for how long, such a long year. So it's a good sound. Yeah.
Are there any pipa makers in America?
Not yet.
Not yet. I like that answer. That's nice. It's extraordinary. And what are we hearing? I want our public to understand that these, what we call harmonies, is just of a completely different scaling system, as it were, musical system. In terms of, and maybe the best to describe it in terms of Western music, and of course, if we go back 200 years before the tempered clavier, but let's just use the tempered clavier. We have our half steps and our whole steps, and like on a piano, you can't really deal with a quarter tone. You get composers that are trying to do that with stringed instruments, and sometimes with wind instruments you can do that. I even have had a couple of things put in front of me where the sliding of tone or trying to find that middle is extremely difficult, also for our ears. But this is kind of where you live anywhere. Is it from? If you get my question, your sense of scale, your sense of tone is probably far more subtle in gradation and more fluid than ours. So if you play Western music, do you feel like you're starting to have to put it in a box? Do you know what I'm asking?
Yeah, I know. If I play Western music, it probably will be different taste. It's like different cuisine, like you put a little bit, you are something, but you kind of, fusion will be, because but I will easily do my left hand, some vibrato put it there, but maybe not supposed. So I think that the whole music system is very different than Western. Western music, a lot of things, even a contemporary piece, they all based on harmonic. Is that called harmonic? It's a vertical, right? You see the whole score, conductor looking at all the different parts, and they looking like that. And for Chinese traditional music, everything is a melody. It's a single melody. It's like a singing. You heard a lot of instruments like erhu. It's just like a singing. So based on that, so like Indian music, right? We're not chords. We're not chords. We're horizontal. So how do you dealing those notes to the other notes? And that's the difference. That's to me, that's the amazing part. That's the beauty part of. So when you listen to Chinese music or Pipa music or my solo, and you will hear my dealing each notes, it's differently.
It's incredibly fascinating. I saw also on your discography that you have a couple of recordings. You worked with the Silk Road project, and with Yo-Yo. I think when Yo-Yo Ma was there. I mean, apropos, Renan and Gibbons is now, I think, one of the music directors or curators of the Silk Road. What were you exploring with them? What are those recordings? What was your work with the Silk Road?
Well, I joined the Silk Road at the very beginning, 20 years ago. So
okay.
I've been there. I'm sort of like a founding member.
You're one of the original Silk Roaders.
The original, yes, I'm too old now. And it's a fascinating, that project, that because we have musicians from a different cultural background, from a different country, so we discovered a lot of things. Like I always talk to Persian musicians to ask about Pipa history, and they will tell me my instrument history, like ancestor.
Wow.
And talk to Indian musicians, how you're dealing with those melodies. That's, we all found very similar, kind of like that. And then a lot of improvisation, and we learned a lot of different music genre. That, to me, that's kind of, we grew up in this ensemble, in this group, as a young musician, and then now 20 years after, and we all grew up much mature, much open-minded musician, I would say that. And everything to me, I'm not exist. I always open because of that experience with the Silk Road.
Yes, I get that.
Yeah.
Do you in your when the world is normal and you're concertizing, do you go back to China regularly to play?
Yeah, I suppose to go back like in 2 weeks.
Oh.
Yeah.
Can you? Do you think? Can you?
If there's an airline flights.
Yeah, exactly. And you would go back to Shanghai?
I go back to Hangzhou.
Hangzhou. I've been to Hangzhou.
Yes, that's my hometown. So
it has apparently the best green tea in the world. And it was extraordinary because I did a concert and they came in, they were very kind. And of course, people are very generous and formal, but they handed me this gift and it was an enormously beautifully wrapped gift. And so, of course, I undid it very carefully and all the paper and saved the bow and everything. I kept going until I came to a box and I opened the box and it was an extraordinary bag of this green tea. Now, that is not necessarily something that in our American tradition that you would give, especially in one of. I mean, the packaging was already so beautiful and obviously expensive, and it was incredibly generous. And I thought, this must be special tea. So the person who was my host when all the dignitaries left and they couldn't speak, and I could never mind. So I said, tell me about this tea. And then I found out that the Hangzhou area has this enormous tradition of the finest green tea in the world. And it was incredible. I mean, I'm a tea person and it was incredible. But I remember this. It was a very moving ritual, really. But anyway, so tell me about Hangzhou.
Well, I'm looking at you very excited about the tea. And the green tea in Hangzhou is special because of the history there. And those green tea tree grew up in a certain mountain in Hangzhou. And those couple of tea trees planted for emperor, the king. So of course, it's very beautiful. The mountain's still there, the tea's still there. That's why expensive and very, well known, the green tea. And the city is old city.
It's a very old city. I was in the very modern part, which is extraordinary and beautiful. But we could tell that we were only there for 2 days. My wife was with me, of course. We have a wonderful tea shop in Vienna, and I went in and I asked after Hangzhou green tea. And the woman sort of looked back and she said, and then she gave me 4 or 5 different, she said, and how nice of tea. So then she explained to me, and yes, it can get very expensive in Europe.
Yes.
It's called, yes.
It's called Longjing green tea.
Exactly. Yum tea. Exactly. Oh, I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to watch this concert at some point. I love expanding my horizons of musical thought and musical understanding. And I was so excited about this interview because I don't know anything about these instruments, and yet I love the sound of them. And I wondered, especially the guy with the fingers and this, it's a wind instrument and so forth. I mean, what you are playing and hearing on this developed scabbard, which I imagine is pretty much the history of the Pipa, and these brettes that get put in. And do you ever does one play some music only on an older instrument? Or can you play everything with these new brettes on them as well? I'm calling them brettes. I don't know what we call them. Frets.
Yes. Yeah. I play everything on the frets.
But I mean, is there some music that you could only play on a less fretted pipa?
Ancient pieces, only few.
But ancient,
yes. Ancient pieces, like maybe 8th century, 9th century, very short tune, short melody or short scale. Yes, only few. You can taste what ancient sound like, and a different tuning as well. That's the and now today it's a very different instrument.
And they would obviously probably still need to be played on silk strings.
In the old days, yes, if you play old piece, but not very, the silk strings, I don't think it's existed. Maybe somewhere the people started to making the silk strings. But for the modern instrument, the silk strings doesn't work.
They don't work.
So
no.
if you want to use an old, like violin, you got the string, the violin shape, maybe not the modern violin. There has to be like a Bartok, style different. Yeah.
Did the pipa go through the gut string phase as well before it came to metal?
Yeah. Oh, we have nylon and metal before.
Nylon.
Gut silk mixed time, and the nylon and basically nylon is the fish. What's called the fishing.
Yeah, fish line.
Yeah.
Well, this is absolutely fantastic. I don't want to keep you any longer. Thank you so much for visiting with us. I'm sure we're all much smarter. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you just type into YouTube or IDAGIO, everything we saw on the screen sharing was on YouTube, but also on the IDAGIO website, Wuman, and you'll have all of these things. I wasn't showing you any secret passages. You can really explore this world of music that is worth every minute of your time. And by the way, we have something in common. Saw a picture where you got an honorary doctorate from New England Conservatory. I am extremely proud that they gave me one as well. Yes, exactly. It's a wonderful conservatory. Yes. It wasn't quite as a distinguished presentation as yours, and that's rightfully so, but it's a marvelous conservatory, and it's a wonderful. Don't you just love Jordan Hall?
Love, this is one of the best hall. Yes, the best hall.
For singers too. I mean, it's just a wonderful place. Some of my best friends are there as well. Anyway, so I hope our paths cross. I wish you the best in your trip back to China, and obviously it'll just be a tour, and you will come back to Southern California.
Thank you, Thomas. And just one more thing, since we talk about my hometown green tea, I think listen to my music and drink a tea and just relax. It's the best time.
What a wonderful invitation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. I'll see you next week with, I'm sure, not nearly as